Welcome, everyone, to the Tethys Shipyards. I am Takeshi Yamato, the Yard Master, joining our host, the Housecoat Gamer.
Yo.
Today we are looking at the Shi'Kahr-Class starship. A variant of a descendant of the Miranda, technically a predecessor to the Reliant, and also a variant of the Cheyenne, technically.
It's an upside-down Springfield.
Yeah. Now, the Utopia Planitia book has stats for both the Cheyenne and the Springfield, as well as the Miranda, the Centaur, and the Reliant. So, I figured it was a good idea to add another variant to the list of statted starships. So, we will start with just a basic overview of the lore of the Cheyenne, just to get a feel for what we're working with in terms of spinning off from this. The Cheyenne, from the book, the Cheyenne class was initially intended as a proof of concept, attempting to bring the aging Constellation-class starship into the 24th century. The Advanced Starship Design Bureau at Utopia Planitia produced the vessel in 2350 with experimental warp coil technology that they felt would improve upon the older standard coils. The new starship was surprisingly versatile, so much so that at first Starfleet ordered 3 produced to act as high-speed couriers to move between human colonies in the core worlds region of the Federation. The United Planets of Tellar soon followed suit, and soon multi-system species in the Federation were asking for a handful of these vessels each. Full production began at Utopia Planitia in 2354, and Starfleet feels the Cheyenne will see continued service to Federation member worlds well into the 25th century. And a quick note on the constellation. Basically, according to the book, the constellation uses only two of its nacelles at a time, but it switches between them sort of constantly to maintain its warp field for longer. But for this one, for the Cheyenne, it doesn't. The nacelles contain 2 sets of specialty coils. At the front were warp field stabilizers that decreased the strain on the rear warp coils that generated the subspace distortions needed for warp travel. And as all 4 were in use, the overall strain was low, meaning it could stay at its maximum speed of warp 9.6 for much longer than similar vessels. The Springfield, launched 2 years later, used the same nacelles, but it only had 2, and was designed to move more mass. And basically optimized it. Basically, was optimized to move more mass per coil. So, given the same nacelles, I would assume that the Shi'Kahr has the same kind of technology. Stabilizers in front, regular coils in back. And this might be more for endurance. This thing might not be quite as fast, but it can move longer. But it can travel at high warp speeds for a decent amount, for longer than most starships.
That said, this is part of the Galaxy-class development program, just like the Cheyenne, and pretty much every other ship seen at Wolf 359, from the Firebrand class, the single nacelle Galaxy derivative, the Cheyenne herself, the rather popular New Orleans class, and of course the Nebula.
Yeah. So I will admit that Star Trek Adventures doesn't treat them as stages in the development program, but more as offshoots from that program. The Nebula is supposedly launched in 2361. Basically, the next.
Does no one ever pay freaking attention to the registry codes?
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. And the New Orleans is supposedly 2364 as sort of a low-cost alternative spin-off. Anyway, we're talking about the Shi'Kahr here. So, entered service dates. Sometime in the early 2350s to go with the Cheyenne and the Springfield. So, somewhere from 2350 to no later than 2354.
Especially considering this thing's registry code as seen with the new Shi'Kahr-Class model. By the way, this was completely redone sometime earlier this year.
Yeah, the original version of this thing was a Day 1 model, and it had way too many holes to be considered healthy.
I'm still not a fan of the hole in the pylon, but what can you do? Apparently they wanted to leave something of that heritage. Frankly, I would be more than happy to see it go.
Yeah. So, 2350 to 2354, somewhere in there. We'll say 2353?
Works well enough.
Alright. So, Scale 4 starship.
It is the same size as the Miranda.
Yep. So, this thing has, 2354, from 2200, that is 154 years, that's 15 points, plus the baseline of 40, 55 points to work with. So,
from some angles, this looks kind of like a Cheyenne Nebula hybrid.
Yeah, fair enough. So,
were it not for the deflector dish, I'd think that was almost a mission pod.
Yeah. We'll start with 10 points in everything and then work from there. We got 5 more points. 9 points in everything. 9 points in everything. Start with 9 points in everything. That's 54. And we have 1 more point to distribute before we start adding or subtracting. I'll list the basic stat totals for the Miranda and the Cheyenne, and technically the Reliant as well, so we can figure out some sort of... the book also has the Soyuz. But, yeah, Nebula... let's see, the Miranda from 2364, 2264, 2274 had comms 7 and an 8 in everything else. And the Cheyenne has comms 9, computers 9, engines 10, sensors 9, structure 9, weapons 9. So basically, the Reliant had weaker comms, slightly weaker comms than everything else, than its other systems, and the Cheyenne has slightly better engines than everything else. And the Reliant, this thing is... there we go. This thing has a 9 in weapons and a 10 in everything else. The Reliant, they basically made the Reliant sort of a logistics vessel from initial development. So, yeah.
It's a Miranda successor, and what's the Miranda best at? Logi.
Yeah.
It just also happens to be very good at shooting people in the face, because
Yeah.
It's a post-Dominion War design, and every single post-Dominion War ship has guns.
Yeah. Anyway, so
Arguably not enough guns.
Yeah. So the Shi'Kahr. We've got 9 and everything, but we got room for 1 more point. Engines, weapons, comms, structure, computers, sensors.
I'm not sure.
Well, we might need to. I suppose we should figure out a precise reason for this thing to be made.
Other than replacing the Miranda.
Yeah. Well, if we're going the endurance route, able to travel at higher warp speeds for longer, just not as high as the Cheyenne or maybe the Springfield, we'll put structure at 10, so it can basically is tougher. I can't see any other modifications that need to be made there. Now, departments. Engineering at 1 at the very least.
We
got 2 points left, and we can I might as well go over the variant, over the relevant ships here with this too. The Miranda had 1 in command, 1 point each in command, con, and science. The Cheyenne has 2 points in con and 1 point in engineering.
It's a high-speed logi boat.
Yeah. And
most of that rear space seems to be dedicated towards holding cargo.
Right. So maybe invert to the Cheyenne. +2 engineering, +1 con?
It is smaller. Doesn't need to...
Yeah. Yeah. I think that works. Alright. Talents. Okay, this is going to be interesting to figure out. We could do... Let's see. Miranda. Alright. The Miranda simply had the extensive shuttle bays talent and a special rule about how its phaser banks can be used at close range as phaser cannons. The Cheyenne has improved reaction control system, improved warp drive, and secondary reactors. And the Reliant... The Reliant has extensive shuttle bays and redundant systems.
Considering the size of those bays, I mean, look at the rear end of this thing.
Yeah, fair enough. Extensive shuttle bays probably works. I'd say extensive shuttle bays and improved warp drive.
Like I said, high-speed logi boat. And some things just can't be beamed down to the surface.
Shuttle bays and improved warp drive.
For anyone wondering what I mean by that, the most toys.
Right.
Exceedingly unstable element needed to be transported by shuttle. Shuttle still exploded, but that's because of, well, someone wanting androids.
Yep. Now, weapon. We get, I'd say, let's see, I'd say phaser arrays and photon torpedoes. It is around that time when arrays were becoming widespread.
Yeah. I only see the one launcher. It's right there. That little black spot right above the deflector.
Well,
there's no aft tube.
Then
again, consider when the ship was being made.
Yeah.
The great age of exploration.
Yeah, and that thing could probably just as easily use probes as it could torpedoes.
Yeah. The 50s and 60s were a little too optimistic for Starfleet. Justifiable. At least until the Borg showed up.
Yeah. So, okay. We have phaser arrays, photon torpedoes, and a strength 3 tractor beam. And trait, Federation starship. Can't think of any other descriptor traits to put in.
High-speed logistician.
Logistician, that could work. Alright. And can't think of any special rules. So, that is the Shi'Kahr.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep. A high-speed logistics boat meant to carry cargo around the Federation. And, looking at the design, I think I can see another design that came from it. Rick and Morty.
Oh, yes. The California.
Yeah. This design definitely looks like it could be a predecessor to that.
Well, considering what happened, perhaps many of the Shi'Kahrs were destroyed during the Dominion War.
Yeah, perhaps.
And maybe production ramped up afterwards to deal with the problem.
Yep. Yeah, but yeah. Don't get me wrong, this thing is definitely a nice ship design. But yeah, I can definitely see the California coming out of this.
Maybe that was the point. E.C. Henry did design this thing.
Oh, fair enough.
Apparently that's his job. Taking the old crap and
making it better. Anyway, as usual, there will be a link in the description, and please give us any feedback that you may have. It is very useful to us in refining our designs, and sooner or later we probably will do a look back at some of the designs that we've uploaded to YouTube up to that point, and revise them based on feedback that you have given us. And I might potentially invite someone, someone more well-versed in Star Trek Adventures as a guest to help us refine, if we do that.
Bye.
See you for the next one.